Welcome to Clifton Health On Air.
I'm your host, Danielle,
And I'm your co-host, Lauren.
and we are a local health department podcast here in Clifton, New Jersey.
We are located 12 miles west of New York City.
And we also service the township of Little Falls.
Welcome.
And today we are going to talk all about cyber safety. And with us today, we have a special guest, Patricia Tamburelli from NJCCIC. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Yes, as you just mentioned, I am Patricia Tamburelli, and I am from NJCCIC. And you might want to say, well, what is NJCCIC? Well, NJCCIC stands for New Jersey Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Cell. It's a lot of words.
That is a lot.
What it basically means is that we are the cybersecurity agency for the state of New Jersey. We are an agency with New Jersey Department of Homeland Security and Preparedness, so NJOHSP, and we are the cybersecurity agency in New Jersey Homeland Security.
Awesome. Thank you. And we're so lucky to have you on here. And I don't want to not introduce also, we have our project coordinator on the podcast as well, Jennifer Kidd. Welcome.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast. And we are just so excited to have both of you on here so we can have a conversation about cybersecurity. And just to dive in, what is cybersecurity and why is it important?
Cybersecurity, to give you the official definition, is the practice of protecting networks, systems, programs, and data from criminal or unauthorized use. That's the official definition. But what's great about a cybersecurity definition is that the word security is part of cybersecurity. And when we think of cybersecurity, we think of protection, we think of safety. The word security, like I said, is built in. So we always think of that when we think of cybersecurity. We think of protection. And if you think about, you asked, why is it important? If you think about how we live our lives today and how we've been living our lives probably for the last 20 years, except for the fact that it's been increasing, the way that we connect to the internet, the way that all of our devices connect to the internet, everyone has today pretty much a cell phone. And a cell phone is probably the most powerful computer that you have on you. And notice I said on you. So you don't have to go and log into your laptop or log into your desktop. It's something that's on you and in your hand. And many, many people have their connection to the internet turned on continually all the time. So just if you think about that alone, without even thinking about data and programs, and if you think about how we connect, how we are all connected all the time, that the need for cybersecurity has never been so great.
Wow. And can you just give us a brief backstory of how long you've been in the cybersecurity realm or business, per se?
I am actually a retired college professor. I taught at County College of Morris in Randolph, New Jersey. I taught there for over 25 years. And my husband and I was a full-time professor. He was an adjunct professor. His background is in law enforcement and corporate cyber and physical security. We actually developed the cybersecurity program at County College of Morris, and it was a program that was designated by the National Security Agency in cybersecurity education. It took us 17 years to get that program designated because we started teaching cybersecurity in the year 2000, if you could believe that. And when we started developing these courses in the late 90s, and when we started teaching in the early 2000s, no one really knew what we were doing. Even administration at the school really didn't know what we were doing. Fortunately for us, we did know what we were doing. And we developed a robust curriculum there but it took years for what we were doing to really become mainstream and to become popular. Because back then in the early 2000s, of course there was a need, but as I mentioned a few minutes ago, think about how things have changed in the last 25 years. So back then, yes, there was a need, but it's not the need that there is today. So that is my background. And I actually was introduced to NJCCIC when they first became established, and that was about 9 years ago. And I did meet them, um, the director and some of the principals in NJCCIC. I met them because I actually had them come to County College of Morris to do a presentation. Because one of the things we had to do to become a center of academic excellence in cybersecurity education was the whole college had to be cybersecurity minded. And that was really why it took 17 years. It took 17, we had the curriculum in place from 2000, but it took us 17 years to do everything that we had to do to abide by the criteria, the NSA DHS criteria, where the whole institution had to be cybersecurity minded. And there's only 2 community colleges in New Jersey to this day that are centers of academic excellence. It's County College of Morris and Brookdale Community College. And there's about 7 4-year colleges and universities that are CAEs as well. So if you hear that, if you hear Center of Academic Excellence, it is pretty prestigious. And I know for a fact how hard everyone works on getting that designation. And it is so important because one of the things is that students, if they go to a CAE school, can transfer to any CAE school in the whole country because the curriculum is the same.
Ooh, well, thank you so much for all your effort and starting that up.
Yeah,
And
that's
that sounds
amazing, yeah.
absolutely amazing. And we're going to talk down the line about careers in cybersecurity and how someone will apply for some of those courses you're talking about or some of those programs. But I do want to touch base on just what some cybersecurity threats are. In your time, what are some common cybersecurity threats that you've seen?
Well, the biggest threat that we have, and you're not going to like what I'm going to say, the biggest threat that we have are people, are humans. And humans are the biggest threat to cybersecurity. And
Okay.
because we're all humans,
Mm-hmm.
the difficulty in having any kind of defenses really has to come almost individually, where it's the individual that has to really be aware of what they're facing. And because the human factor is so integral and so at the very basis of cyber threats, what we're doing right now, any type of cybersecurity awareness, any type of cybersecurity training, podcasts, webinars, it's so important. And that's why companies today spend so much time and money in trying to educate their employees, because the biggest threat, not just humans, but really it's humans that are in organizations, in businesses, in entities. The individual is really not attacked much anymore. Yes, we do feel it individually because usually our data has been involved in some kind of a breach, but it's not a breach that was targeted to us individually as an individual human. It's a breach that happened with a company that was responsible for protecting our personal information.
Okay, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. Because for myself, I thought it was just individual scams via text
Me too,
message or
right.
phone call. But
You're absolutely right, though, because and I guess I would follow up with, yes, the human factor is definitely the biggest threat, but I do think phishing is probably the biggest threat that we all still face. And like what you said, individually, we face that on an individual basis. But those text messages that we get, the phone calls that we get, the emails that we get that are phishing, they are targeted to us, but not really, because they're not looking to target Pat Tamburelli. They're really looking to target anyone who's going to click on a link. So that's what is something that is very upfront, or should be upfront in everyone's mind and mindset, is, and it's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing to get people to do, humans to do. And part of phishing is something called social engineering. And social engineering is what allows all of these phishing attacks that happen through all different modalities. And like I said, we carry our phones all the time. So we are subject to text messages, phone calls. Most of us have access to our email on our phones. So we're subject to all of that. And what is social engineering? Social engineering is exactly what you think it is. It is engineering or manipulating people. It's manipulating people by our social aspects. In other words, what do we like to do? We like to help. We like to, as I say, I'm probably the nosiest person on the planet. So it took me a long time to not answer my phone. When I get a phone call and I don't know that number, because like I said, I'm the nosiest person on the planet. So I want to answer that. I want to see who it is. What do they want? And the biggest thing that I had to do to train myself, and that's probably, I think, the best piece of information that I could give, is that you really have to train yourself. You have to become disciplined in that art, the art of not being nosy, because it is that curiosity. Curiosity is a better word than nosy. So let me say curiosity, better word. But it's for a social human being to try to suppress that natural curiosity, it's very difficult. And I've finally gotten to the point where I do not answer my phone if I don't know the number. And I actually had a phone call last week, a phone call and a text message pretty much at the same time, within a few seconds of each other. I didn't answer it. We're lucky today that a lot of our cell phone providers and our ISPs will have spam blockers, will let us know that if a spam call is coming in. So my phone rang, it said spam. Of course, I didn't answer it. I wasn't going to answer it anyway because I didn't know the number. It was actually the state of New Jersey, because we changed our alert system, and they were testing out the alert system for snow emergencies and delays. And I just thought that was interesting, that I was pretty proud of myself that when I looked at it, I didn't answer it.
Yeah, and that brings us to our next question. How can an individual person protect their personal information online and kind of develop the tips and skills that you've learned not to answer a scam call or a scam text message also?
I think the best way that we can protect our personal information is to keep monitoring our credit reports, our bank accounts, to keep monitoring that aspect, our financial aspect of ourselves. Because unfortunately, think about how many entities have your PII, your personally identifiable information. How many entities have that for all of us today? And we don't have a choice. If you go to the doctor, you have to give your social security number, your date of birth, your insurance information, and all of that information tied together. Once we give that, we almost lose control of that. And we hope that the entity that we're giving this to is going to protect that information. The reality is they try. Entities do try to protect our information, which is why we all, and I think everyone has gotten the dreaded email or letter that your personal information has been involved in a breach. But the best thing that we could do is, whenever that happens, a lot of people, when they read the letters that come, they're like, oh, okay, whatever. But they always give free credit monitoring services for a certain amount of time, either 6 months or a year. So that is the one best thing that everyone can do. Number one, you hope your information is never involved in a breach, but when it is, read through that letter and read through the services and the protection that that company that kind of let you down, try to follow that through and establish an account with these credit reporting agencies. That's probably the best thing that we can do. Either that or we don't go anywhere, we don't do anything, we don't give anyone, and we can't live life that way.
No.
Pat, what about our passwords? Can you give us any advice on our passwords for certain accounts that we have?
I sure can. And that is probably after phishing and social engineering, I do think that credential problems, credential threats and hacks are probably one of the biggest things that we face. And we know a credential is something that we need to provide to gain access. So usually like you just mentioned, usernames and passwords, they're the credentials that we use most often. The best thing that you could do is to make sure that you have multi-factor authentication turned on to all of your accounts. And I think some entities, even Google, Gmail, I think they've required MFA for quite some time now. But there was a time, believe it or not, around 2011, 2012, when you didn't need to have that. And multi-factor authentication just means that, yes, you're putting in your password, but now we're checking. We're checking to make sure that that is you, that is your account. And by providing another factor, another type of authentication, like an email or a text message, that's something that can protect us. Also, to make sure that we have, it's interesting, in the past, it was a strong password that was 25, 30 characters, ridiculous combinations that nobody could remember. And I always say the best password is one you can remember.
Yeah.
That's the best password. If you can't remember
Yeah.
that password is useless.
Oh
There's-
man. I can
There's a
never-
really good,
I'm
right.
constantly resetting mine.
Mhm.
There's a really good site called Have I Been Pawned? And I don't know if you've heard of that. It's Have I Been PWNED. And it's a free site where you could go and type in your email address. And what it does is it checks to see if that email address was involved in any type of data breach. So we actually
Oh.
do use that at NJCCIC. We use that because one of the things that we do is we actually manage and maintain the whole Garden State network. So any New Jersey agency is their network is all connected and we monitor and maintain that. And one of the things that we do is we check all of our email addresses through this free Have I Been Pawned website. And then if we get a hit that somebody's email address came back, that it was involved in a breach, we notify that employee immediately so they can change their password. And it's something simple. It's that simple that if you have been involved in a data breach, if your email was, make sure that you change that password. Most times we're required to change a password by our organizations or by our companies. And even if you're not mandated to do it, you should do it yourself. And I'll just let you in on a little secret. I write down my passwords. And when I said that I write down my passwords, I was presenting at a high school. The students flipped out. You write them down? And I'm like, wait a minute. I don't have a post-it on my laptop or on I don't do that, but I do write them down. I actually have a notebook that I carry around with me where I write my passwords down. And I have, being in cybersecurity, I have some kind of a coding scheme where I know what that password goes to. Nobody else would know what that password goes to, but I do write them down. So I
Right.
always remember.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I'm definitely going to take that basic
been
step and tip to stay safe online. And thank you for sharing that as well. But are there any other basic steps someone can take to stay safe online?
The best thing that a person can do to stay safe online is they really have to, and it's funny, it's really simple. And it's two things: to connect with care. So it's hard to connect with care when we're always connected. So that kind of, it's like, well, okay, you're telling me to connect with care, but I'm not just logging into the internet. I'm on all the time. It's on all the time. A good practice to get into is if you're not using something, to turn it off. If you're not using Wi-Fi, turn it off. If you're not using Bluetooth, turn it off. We use Bluetooth today for our maps. So most times when we're driving, our Bluetooth is on, but turn it off when you're not using it. And it's a difficult thing to do because, again, we live in second by second world. We don't want to take a few extra seconds to turn off our Wi-Fi and turn it back on. But one of the best things that anyone can do is to have something called a VPN. And a VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. And that is something, that piece of software that you could have downloaded to all of your devices. All of the cell phone providers, as well as the ISPs, offer VPNs at a reduced cost to their customers. There's also free VPNs that are out there. And a VPN is exactly what you think it is: virtual private network. It creates a tunnel for your connection. So if you're connecting to an open Wi-Fi, and we've heard all of those horror stories about sitting in Starbucks, and there's the hacker sitting next to you in Starbucks who is watching everything that you do online. Now, is that fictional or is that reality? That is reality. Reality is I can sit next to you on an open Wi-Fi. If you don't have any protection, any VPN, if you're just connecting to that open Wi-Fi, I can actually see everything you do online, which is very frightening. But I actually use, not that I'm touting any company, but I use Verizon as my cell phone provider. And we've used their VPN for years. Very cost effective. When we first got it years ago, it was like $4 a month, $4 and change. Now I think it's maybe $7 or $8. You get so many devices, and I keep that VPN on all the time. That's one thing I keep on all the time because I don't want to forget about turning that on when I'm online. So I just keep that turned on all the time. But that's probably the best thing. And also the other thing is to be aware, be cyber aware. My husband always said, keep your head on a swivel. You keep your head on a swivel in the real world, and you keep your head on a swivel in the cyber world. You should know what's happening all around you, just as if you're walking down a dark street at night. You want to make sure that you have situational awareness. It's also called situational awareness. Keep your head on a swivel sounds better. But that's something that we can do online as well as in the physical world.
Awesome. And I just thinking about that, I can't hone enough that this is not an age requirement. This is everyone,
Affects everybody.
right? This affects everybody.
This affects everyone. It affects everybody. And what's interesting is that I actually really think that the population, the older population in our country, are almost more protected instead of less protected because they don't use technology the way that younger people do. And some people as well who are not as tech savvy. If you're not tech savvy, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a bigger cybersecurity risk. It could actually mean that you're less of a risk because if you don't use the internet on your phone, that means you have to go home. You have to log in to your desktop or laptop. You're not always connected. So I do think that everyone, every person, and the most important thing to know is even me, somebody who has been in cybersecurity for 30 years, I am at as much of a risk as all of you because I'm a human. And even though I know I am more aware because I do know a little bit more, but I could still become a victim. Even with everything I know, if I'm caught when I'm tired, when I'm stressed, when I'm doing 60 things at once, which is what we all do, and something comes through, I get that text message where it looks legitimate because attackers today, they will send you texts, email, and phone calls from spoofed numbers where it actually looks legitimate, but we just have to beware. And I think if you have a question, I always say, don't. If you question something, don't do it. Don't click on it. And if it's something that is important, where somebody, the company wants to get in touch with you, they will. They will find a way to get in touch with you.
I just wanted to pick your brain on AI and how has that affected online scams nowadays?
I think it's very interesting that you asked that question about AI because I actually heard something this morning about what the average person could do to become familiar with AI is to just use Chat GPT or one of the bigger AI offerings and download Chat GPT and just use that. But what's interesting, and they also commented on this, is that how many times a day do we use a Google search? Everyone. Everyone uses
Too many to
all the
Yeah.
time. All the time. And Chat GPT really started with Google search. So there are Chat GPT components in Google search today. So to use that, but I think that it's just, I think AI is going to change the game on both ends, on cyber defense and on cyber attacks, because it's not just the defenders that have access to this AI. It's the attackers that have access to it as well. And I see some things that we do at NJCCIC because of all the agencies that we maintain. We have about 7 billion events in a 24-hour period. And events meaning not attacks, events meaning users logging in, logging off, logging on. Anything that anyone does in with and to the network is considered an event. And could you imagine if a human had to scroll through all of those events and try to figure out what's legitimate, what's not, where's the attack, where's the pattern? So what AI does is that does that work for us. That does that heavy lifting for us. But we also have to be mindful, like I said, it's also doing the heavy lifting for the attackers.
Yeah, it's
Scary to think
definitely
about.
going to change the game, as you said. And I think it's also about educating others on how important it is to just watch out for AI or like you said, familiarize yourself with ChatGPT or any of those AI softwares.
The biggest thing that we can do is education, is educate ourselves and to become aware. I mean, education sometimes can be a scary sounding word. What people think, what do I have to do? I have to go through courses, I have to learn. I think awareness is definitely a better word because once we're aware, and I think that part of awareness in cybersecurity is the shock and awe because I think it happens. When you think about what we do and when we have conversations like this, it's scary. It is definitely scary. And I think that one of the things that we could do to kind of allay our fears is to learn, and not so much in a formal education setting, but to become aware of the little things that we can do. And there are a lot of little things that we could do that do make a difference, that make a huge difference.
And I just want to talk about all of the outreach programs and presentations you do at NJCCIC. Can you just touch base on what that looks like?
I am the education coordinator for the bureau that I work in. NJCCIC has 3 bureaus. One bureau does governance, one bureau does outreach and cyber threats, and that's the bureau that I'm in. And then we have another bureau that does security operations, and they're the ones that really maintain the whole garden network. And I do presentations for K through 12. I do presentations at colleges. I do presentations for towns, for cities, for organizations, business organizations. So I do presentations for a lot of different entities. And what I just started doing within the last few months, and this is where I think I need not to move to, but I think I need to do more, is presentations for K through 4 or K through 5. I think that that is really a very important space because I am always amazed with how savvy these kids are.
How are those programs? What do you do? Do they teach you in those classrooms? Like, what does that look like?
What do the programs look like?
Yeah.
The good thing is that these programs, the programs that we do at NJCCIC, they really are tailored. They are tailored to the audience. And I think that's important because if I'm talking to second graders, or if I'm talking to high schoolers, or if I'm speaking to business people, it's really 3 totally different audiences that really have different needs and different approaches. So the good thing is that what NJ tries to do is we try to develop relationships, and the relationships that we try to develop are relationships that grow and that are built on prior information and prior presentations. So that's the good thing is that when we start out with an organization or a town or a city, usually we start out with basics, cybersecurity basics, and things that people can do right away. And then we could go on to different age groups and the things that those age groups face cybersecurity wise and what they can do.
What would a K through 4th grade face cybersecurity wise?
What I think, what I have found in the presentations that I've been doing is the amount of K through 4 that game online.
Yes.
Ah, yes.
And I think that that's the first thing I always ask. Many of them have their own cell phones. Many of them have cell phones that have internet access, and many of them play online games. And I think that when back in the day, my daughters are older, but back in the day of MySpace, when that was a thing, and we had dial-up connections,
Oh,
man. My daughters were only allowed to go online when I was standing behind them. And they were very upset because from being in cybersecurity from the beginning, pretty much, my daughters were at a distinct disadvantage and in a minority compared to their friends. And they were not happy. And they laugh to this day about me standing behind them when they're on MySpace and me saying, "Who is that? Who is that? Who is that person? Do you know them? They say they're this, but are they that?" So they have a little trauma when it comes to MySpace, like most of the people that used MySpace. But I'm really amazed with the number of students in the real low primary grades that do have internet access.
How can parents protect their kids? Just like, how can they be you in this day and age, I guess?
They could stand behind them, but and I'm sure some of them do. But I think that the best thing to do really is and again, I'm a big proponent of what happens in the real world happens in the cyber world. So in the real world with my kids, I'm always watching. What are they doing? With the exception of standing behind them, but what are they doing? Who are they doing it with? Who are your friends? When you're going to a friend's house, I'd like to meet those parents. So if my child is online, I'd like to know what you are doing and who are you talking to? Who are you playing this game with? What are they saying to you? And I know it's a big, difficult burden for parents to face that, but what they can do, with the exception, like I said, of standing behind them, is to make sure that they have protections on their devices, on their systems. There's so many parental controls today that parents can enact. And that's something that I think parents need to do. Or the other thing that they could do is to really prohibit them from being online. And the child might not be happy about that. But I think that if a parent feels that they can't really protect them, just like if in the real world, if I'm not going to let my child walk down that dark street by themselves at night, I'm going to be with them, or we're not walking down that street. So that's something to keep in mind in the cyber world as well.
Right. That's great points. And I guess this also would work with social media as well. So have you seen, how can someone use social media safely?
The very interesting thing about social media and social media apps is that I think we definitely live in a social media world today. And not just a social media world, but we really live in an app world. When I think about how many apps I use, how many apps I have on my phone, I kind of laugh because I have so many apps on my phone. And all of these apps, including the social media apps, all of them allow me to control my privacy settings. I can control what I want shared, what I want turned on, what I don't want turned on, what I want you to collect, what I don't want you to collect. I have control over that. But many of us, again, because we live in such a frenetic, hectic world, we don't take the time to read through those privacy settings. We don't take the time to read through terms and conditions. Think about that. If we read all the terms and conditions for all the apps that we have on our phone, I'd just be still reading terms and conditions
Yeah.
instead of using the app. So I think that's definitely true, but privacy settings are something that we do have control over. Even if you don't want to read the terms and conditions, look at the privacy settings and make sure that you turn things off. One of the biggest offenders is, and it's no surprise, is Instagram. Instagram definitely collects close to, I'm looking at the exact number now. I believe it's about
make me cry.
79%. 79% of personal data collected.
79%?
79%. Instagram
Wow.
collects 79% of your personal data.
Whoa.
So, which is very interesting. And all of the top 25 social media apps, the lowest is like 46%.
Wow.
So it's not even that we're starting out with zero or starting out, with one with these apps. It's yeah, it's very interesting. But we have control over that. We have control over what they do collect. And with the help of legislation, that's also happened in the last few years where some of these companies really were made to be responsible for what they do and made to be transparent, because that was the issue before. We didn't know what was happening because nobody read the terms and conditions. But now that by law, legislatively mandated, a lot of these apps really have to be transparent today. And that's something that, again, it's an easy thing, but the practice of it is difficult because we have to go through now. We have to go through these apps to see what's turned on, what's turned off, what can I hide, what can I protect. And the best thing is, I mentioned before about the virtual private network. If you have that turned on and you're using these apps, these social media apps, you are protected. So you're protected, not 100%, of course, but you're protected more so than if you didn't have a VPN.
Wow.
I got to get a VPN.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
some of them are free. Nord, N-O-R-D VPN, they have a free version that I actually used on my iPad for a bit a few years ago. And there's a lot of free free VPNs out there, so you don't even have to worry about paying a monthly fee. But it's definitely worth it. It's the biggest and best thing I think that someone can do.
Wow,
Absolutely.
really learned so much today.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. I'm still scared on that
Yeah.
79% of my data.
but I'm not.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
glad you
sorry, not
Made us
told me
aware.
the truth.
Yeah.
So the shock and awe and because when we, unfortunately, again, this goes back to social engineering. When we're frightened, we're humans. So when we get frightened, we think twice. And if that's the most that I could espouse is to think twice, to think before you do something, then it was worth it. The scare was worth it.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much for the scare. So being in cybersecurity, what are some wise words you would give to someone who would like to step into that career? Is cybersecurity related to public health at all?
I think today, over the last 25 years, you cannot separate cybersecurity from any career. I think any aspect of our lives today is so intertwined with cybersecurity. And it is because of all of our information that we are required to provide. And the fact that we are always connected. We're always connected to the internet because of those things that it's really a part of every single thing. And that is really the good thing. The good thing is it doesn't make a difference really what career path you want to follow, because you can follow that career path and you can also marry cyber to that or bring cyber into that career path. My niece graduated from Seton Hall Law School last year, 2024, and I was amazed with how many students were specializing in cyber law. So it was great to hear that, because when they announced everyone, they announced their specializations. So, and I think, who would think that, you could be a lawyer and be cyber law and public health. I think I think everyone in public health really needs to be cybersecurity, not just aware, educated, needs to be cybersecurity educated.
Well, thank you so much
Thanks, Pat. That
for
was
coming on this
wonderful.
podcast, because sometimes people might not relate cybersecurity and public health at all. But you've done such a wonderful job explaining it to everyone, and I don't want to overstep this, but I know you are going to make an appearance here at our senior center in partnership with the Clifton Health Department. Can you just talk a little bit about that outreach presentation?
The presentation it's going to be a little bit different than the way that we spoke today, because it's definitely going to be targeted to a more senior audience, because there are different considerations. And I also think too that it's good. The podcast is great. The podcasts are great, and I hope we do more of them, because we could certainly do almost like commercial podcasts, cybersecurity commercials. This is the topic of the day, and here's 10 minutes on that. So that's one thing that we could do. But I think in person, presenting in person and actually being there and meeting people and listening to their concerns as well, I think is really important. So I am really looking forward to next week, and I'm looking forward to a continuing relationship with the Clifton Health Department, because we have all aspects, all demographics out there that we can reach.
Absolutely. And we will be sure to take all the information that you said in this podcast and put it at the link. We'll link some
resources.
We'll link some resources in the bio, and we will totally have you back on here for a 10-minute special episode about all cybersecurity safety. Is there a specific awareness month for cybersecurity?
Yes, there is. October is designated as National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. and has been designated, I'm trying to think of how long, I want to say close to 20 years, I think now, or almost 20 years. We definitely took part in that in County College of Morris, from when it first started up until I retired from there. And what's great is that a lot of what's offered, and that is a program from the federal government, from the Federal Cybersecurity Agency, which is called CISA, CISA. They're our federal cybersecurity agency. And this is a part of that, this October being National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And what's interesting, a little tidbit, is we used to have a senator, was he a senator? I believe it was Senator Freeling-Heisen was his name. And he was a very popular legislator from New Jersey. And he actually coined a tagline for National Cybersecurity Awareness Month many years ago. And I still think it's one of the best taglines ever. It's stop, think, and connect. So I think it's one of the best taglines, but that was when people were connecting and then not connecting and then connecting. But still, stop, think, connect. I think it's very timely. And all of the resources from National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, they're online year round. So
Okay, perfect.
Well, thank you so much, Pat. It's great to have you on the podcast.
Thanks, Pat.
And we hope to see you soon, of course. And thank you so much. And thank you so much, Jen, for sitting on this podcast
I learned so much.
with us.
I'm
Yes.
so happy I was able to do this.
it was my pleasure, and I'm so
Yeah.
excited for the relationship between NJCCIC and Clifton Health Department, because
So-
this is really what we're here for. This is what NJCCIC is here for. We're here to spread awareness, to spread education, and to make New Jersey really more cyber safe, more cyber secure.
Awesome.
Awesome. We're so happy for the collaboration. And thank you so much. Lauren, take us out.
Don't forget to tune in to our podcast every other week for a new episode. You may visit our website at www.cliftonnj.org. Follow us on social media. We are on Facebook and Instagram. Our handle is Clifton Health. If you have any questions, you can email us at health@cliftonnj.org. And before we leave today, let us ask ourselves, did you make a difference in someone's life today?